We have an exciting panel from insurance carriers, the West Bend Mutual, as well as Kraus Andersen, who is representing the brokerage. My background is I have been in the insurance industry for almost 25 years now. I've been solving business problems with technology. So when we looked at this unstructured data, we launched CogniSure 3 years back to solve the problem of unstructured data in the insurance industry. So I have a great panel. I would ask them to introduce themselves. So Seth, you can get started. And
thanks, Sai, and thanks for inviting us to join today. My name is Seth Hausman. I am Managing Director of Kraus Andersen Insurance's risk consulting practice. I've been on the brokerage side now for 5 years, and prior to that, about 25 years at a large insurance company in some operational leadership roles. So I've seen firsthand from the carrier side and the agency side the challenges around loss runs and unstructured data more generally. So happy to be here, and thanks for having us.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jason Lanza. I'm an underwriting manager at Argent, which is a division of West Bend Mutual. Our team's focused on monoline workers' compensation insurance and provides a high-touch, high-service model for larger organizations with unique or complex risk exposures. Personally, I've been in the industry for 17 years and with Argent West Bend Mutual for the past 11. And would just like to say thank you to Sai and the CogniSure team for having me as a panelist today.
All right. Good morning. I'm Travis Rush, underwriting manager for West Bend Mutual Insurance Company. I oversee one of our regions for the standard commercial division. Been with West Bend for 18 years.
Yeah, so thank you, Travis. I think do really appreciate everyone. So the agenda for today's webinar is we are going to discuss what is the problem of loss runs in the insurance industry, both from a carrier underwriting angle and also from a broker angle. And then we are going to do a demo of, introduce CogniSure AI, how we are solving this problem, and also do a quick demo of how we can take 100 pages of loss runs and convert that into something useful within minutes. And we will have a conversation on how our panelists are using the CogniSure platform, and what is the benefits and what are the other opportunities with this technology. And the third component is, what is our future of digital submission? How do we go from where we are today to, as an industry, how can we have a much more frictionless data exchange between the insurance ecosystem? And we will also have a Q&A. So you don't need to wait for Q&A. You can actually send us through chat whenever you have questions. So we will have a good amount of time towards the end of the demo to answer the questions. So, let's get started with the first loss run challenges. We want to hear the challenges as faced by, from a broker perspective. Seth, you can start, and then, Jason and Travis, you can share, the challenges of loss runs in the industry.
Sure. So, yeah, I think I'll start more generally for a moment. And one of the general challenges around data in the insurance industry is certainly, number one, the amount of it. And secondly, the number of players and the size and scope of the industry. So unlike other industries where there might be a few players, in the case of the insurance industry, we're talking about many agencies and brokers and many insurance companies. So we have many relationships that are crossing in different directions, and all of which are using different types of data in different types of systems and different types of formats. Specifically to loss runs, what we've seen is out of maybe 250 carriers or so that are you consider the most likely and the largest, many have very different formats in terms of how they produce loss runs, what they look like, what type of report format they're coming in from, and more importantly, terminology that comes through them. So there is not consistent terminology across the industry, so it makes it very difficult to compare one to the other, and certainly makes it difficult to aggregate those. Finally, timing is important on the loss runs. Loss runs are static as soon as they're created. So without the ability to regularly get updated information and data, we are always working with backwards data rather than forward-thinking data. And that those insights are really more challenging to get at.
Kind of echoing Seth's comment, the challenge, in my opinion, with evaluating loss run data is that there's just no standardization at an industry level. Each carrier has their own unique way of displaying information, and depending on the company, they utilize multiple versions of loss runs, based on the expected end user. For example, you may have an internal, an external, an agency, or an insured copy. So as part of the new business evaluation process, an underwriter must review and comprehend the historical loss data to assist with the prediction of future losses, risk mitigation potential, and appropriate pricing. Since the start of my career, this process has been 100% manual. So, when I was underwriting a desk, it would be, printing off the physical loss runs and then taking highlighters and going through and trying to make those connections and insights. Obviously now we're using, tools on the computer via PDF and things of that sort, but it's a manual process. Travis?
Yeah, speaking for underwriting, loss runs are an essential component of the underwriting process. Underwriters are using prior claim history to help price premiums, analyze the risk, and reduce risks and identify trends. The time taken for an underwriter to create loss summaries and analyze the loss data can be cumbersome. The manual process of gathering and analyzing is time consuming and could be more efficient. Plus, like Jason and Seth said, each carrier has their own loss run format, and it varies, and each varies differently by what they will share in their loss runs too.
Yeah. So thanks, Travis and Jason. A couple of follow-up questions, right? So we have been in the industry for a very long time. So what has changed over last 20, 25 years in the loss runs? And why do carriers and carriers did not standardize this process, which is very critical for underwriting? So any thoughts on that?
I would say the only advancement I've seen in my career in terms of loss runs would be the fact that many times we now have the ability to get the information in an Excel format, which allows for a more efficient evaluation of the exposures. But other than that, it's pretty much been unchanged, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would agree with Jason there wholeheartedly. The most significant change probably beyond the Excel is we're not getting faxes any longer with loss runs, because that was probably where we were 20 years ago. But every challenge that lived 20 years ago still remains today. In fact, it may even be more exacerbated simply because people are more interested in learning and understanding the data, and it's more frustrating because it is harder to review the data. There have been some advancements and changes around the edges, I'd say. There are a few carriers that will download claim data directly to agents right now, but those are smaller number of carriers with a smaller set of data. So in the 20-year period, we've seen a little work around the sides, but nothing significant.
Thank you.
I would say that a few changes I've noticed, there's so much focus around data analytics. And I've seen some carriers, I think, are providing more data in their loss runs, more information, so that it's easier to get at that data to analyze it.
Basically, in summary, there is no standard loss run formats. Every carrier has its own format and template. Normalization is a big challenge. Everybody uses, and these are unstructured documents like PDF and Excel. And then significant effort to structure this data and analyze loss history. And loss runs only provide a historic view and not a prediction of the future losses. So one quick follow-up question, right? It's a significant effort, but can you quantify from a broker and carrier standpoint, how much of an effort the underwriting community or broker community is spending on this problem?
So I think there's two components to that question side. There's the time that's spent around analyzing the loss run data, and then there's time spent around entering and data input around that. And they differ, but both are important. And I think it's important to think about those two pieces separately. And that could range from, 1 to 2 hours for a particular customer once or twice a year to 3, 4, 5 hours every single time. And it could be up to quarterly for a larger account. So it is a significant amount of time. The data entry piece lives in one part of most organizations, including ours, and the analysis part, as I think Jason mentioned earlier, is complicated with multiple loss runs to have to get looked at the same time. So that takes some time as well.
A few of our large account underwriters, and those are underwriters that are working on accounts that are 6 figures, good loss activity. The average time spent analyzing the loss runs is around an hour. That does not include any entry. We don't require our underwriters to do entry, but around an hour to analyze.
Sure.
Per account.
Yeah, I know some accounts, some carriers enter this loss data into their rating systems at a claim level. Then it becomes many more hours to enter all this data. So thanks a lot. We do have a small survey, a poll question. So Swapnil is going to, Swapnil, can you send a poll survey question? So we want to hear audience feedback on this. There is not much of a surprise there. If we avoid the underwriters and brokers, yeah, it looks like a significant, manual pain on this particular one. Okay, I want to talk about how are we solving? What is the problem? What is the solution for this problem? See, CogniSure built an end-to-end platform that can take PDF and Excel loss runs as inputs, and there are multiple ways you can ingest these loss runs into our platform. And our algorithms, which are built on machine learning and AI techniques, can extract the data from these documents, normalize, and create outputs that are consumable for both underwriters and carriers. So just to give you an example, we can take 3 different, I'm going to do a live demo, 3 different carrier loss runs, which are like more than 100 pages. The whole process can be completed within 5 minutes to provide the insights that the underwriters are looking at it. So just let's quickly do a quick live demo of this platform. So in our platform, we can drag and drop. There are multiple ways to ingest, but this is one way to do. So let's say these are the 3 different carrier loss runs. And we are also saying that, okay, this is a bundle. This belongs to the same insured. So then the system can aggregate all of them together. So usually, depending on the traffic, it can take anywhere between a couple of minutes to 5 minutes. So instead of waiting for that, so let's look at how it looks like. If you see, the platform recognizes who is the carrier loss run. In our case, we uploaded 3 loss runs. You can download this into a JSON, or it can be integrated into your your underwriting systems. But very interestingly, we have something called a 1-page summary of that particular loss run, which is a very good snapshot for an underwriter to quickly see what is happening. And like similarly, like for you can see individual loss run snapshot and also an aggregated snapshot of that particular loss run. If I go to an aggregated, because we bundled this particular one, then you can see all the loss runs bundled together as a one snapshot. And not only that, you can actually download these files into like an Excel file. If you want to download this as an Excel file, you can download that as an Excel file. Or brokers have an ability to custom. We are working with brokers. As you can see, they want to download the loss run data into multiple dimensions: claims by LOB, claim type, injury type. So all this is automatically, as you can see, within minutes, you can get all these dimensions that are there sitting in this document. So in addition to this, actually, you can also go into what we call something called Click Insights. I know if you are a broker, your entire book of business is on on the dashboard that you can actually slice and dice for your accounts. So in this case, we actually selected these 3 files that came in, and you can see this is all slicing and dicing. Let's say, for example, if you only want to look at the losses from a workers' comp standpoint, then you can slice that. Or if you want to look at the causes of loss, like let's pick up, a workers' comp. One second. So there is a lot of data. So it is basically, you can actually look at the different causes of loss in all these files together. If there is a multiple lines of business is there, it shows you all the causes of loss, all the location data. So as you can see, there is all the details are there, and how many large claims are there. Typically, every dimension that an underwriter wants to see is already there right at the fingertips instead of looking at their documents. So I think this is, again, this is what I have uploaded right now. As you can see, it took only 25 seconds, 45 seconds, less than a couple of minutes. These 3 files are processed, and let's see whether this bundling is complete. Okay, I think, yeah, this is, again, as I said, the overall bundling also happens at a bundling level, and then you can also see it in the clicker. So that's at a very high level. Let me stop, and then let's have our panelists answer, how are you using the platform, and what are the benefits of the platform? And I want to also hear the challenges with the platform and the opportunities for improvements. So, Seth, you want to start?
Sure, if there's any. We really have 3 use cases, and as background here, we've been using the CogniSure platform now since its infancy, and have been working side by side and helping to improve that platform on the agency side as well. We do think about 3 different use cases: one related to our carrier relationships, one related to our customer relationships, and one for our own agency side. On the carrier side, every carrier, as you'll hear from Jason and the West Bend team, needs loss runs for submissions as part of the submission process. So we are using the CogniSure platform to take the loss runs from our customers, from other carriers, and put them together into a single package where we can present that loss picture to an underwriter. On the customer side, on the flip side, very similarly, maybe not as transparently, often our customers are looking for a set of data that they can understand and analyze the insights of their claims. So we're taking that same data at a customer level and providing it to our customers on some regular basis. And then third, and probably the most important for our own business, is looking at the aggregated set of our data, so we can look at some insights and glean some insights to provide to our customers and our underwriters in terms of trends that we're seeing in our book, and where we should spend some time and effort around safety issues, for example, where we're seeing leading causes of injuries that will provide us opportunities to work in the future. So really use cases in all parts of our business.
So speed to market is a phrase you often hear in the insurance industry right now. And at West Bend, we're always looking for ways to be more efficient at the underwriting desk, because usually what we're learning is that the carrier that has the quote first in to their agent has a better chance of writing that account. And a big part of the, like I said earlier, big piece of the underwriting process is reviewing loss runs, analyzing loss runs. So CogniSure, it's a data visualization tool that'll display a summary of loss history in a matter of seconds. It's a tool that'll help lead underwriting to a path to determine, what needs to be further looked at. It gives the user a very vibrant snapshot, like Sai showed earlier, just high overview of how the account has been performing. Or you can do a deeper dive by using the click, where you can help identify trends by frequency or by cause of loss, repeat offenders. It's a really nice tool to do a deeper dive, and it's easy to follow. Underwriters have taken a liking to this. We found that it's more effective on larger accounts, that have a good amount of loss activity, that's really where it comes into play for our underwriters.
Thanks, Travis.
I think one of the things I'll add on there before we jump to Jason is the speed. So we often have new prospects, for example, or quick to submissions where we need to do a quick evaluation and understand what's going on the loss side. And we've got loss runs over the course of 5 years from 8 different carriers. Being able to take those loss runs and aggregate them in minutes, if not seconds, is a huge time saver, and also makes it possible for us to be front of the marketplace in terms of what we can provide to, again, to our customers and to our underwriters. So that speed is a huge game changer versus what we had previously would have been doing.
Thank you. Jason.
Yeah, no, I would echo everything that was said. I guess if you would ask me how we're utilizing the CogniSure platform right now, it's kind of two-pronged. On the front end, the underwriting team is using it to support the evaluation of new business opportunities. And then on the back end, once we earn an account's business, we've utilized the CogniSure product to provide our insureds with a holistic, multi-year, multi-carrier analysis of historical experience. And we do that by essentially marrying the prior carrier's updated version of loss runs with the current value data that we have internally at West Bend Mutual. The benefits of the CogniSure platform, it's really speed and efficiency. It really allows the Argent team to gain insights quickly through easy to consume data visualizations. It's able to aggregate historical loss information, potentially across multiple carriers, into that one singular report. And it really increases the efficiency of the process and provides our team with the ability to quickly identify potential concerns, like Travis said, mechanisms of injury, claims reporting lag time, repeat offender, or other exposures inherent to the individual operation.
Thank you. So what are the challenges of using CogniSure platform, or the areas of improvement? I think, it's a journey. We learned. Thank you a lot for your support and your feedback. So we continue to improve, but I want to hear from your standpoint, where do you want to take it to the next level? What are the opportunities?
So one of the challenges, and this has been a challenge since the beginning, is if a carrier is not trained in your system, in the tool, that it takes, 5 to 7 examples for the carrier's loss runs to get trained into CogniSure. But CogniSure, the team has been great. That's the one thing, the service that you guys provide has always been excellent to our underwriters. So, kudos to you there. One thing, I just want to add too, that this is continuing to evolve. We're talking about what else can we add to this. We talked about loss forecasting. As underwriters, we like to use the information, the losses we've had to help forecast for what we call a loss pick, which will help us understand what our needed premium is on a risk. And that's something I know that we're kind of working with you on right now.
Definitely. I think more of a predicting future losses than loss pick. Yeah, we are always looking for improving. And the other point, Travis, you're right. There are at least 10 to 20% of the loss runs we receive are unknown regional carriers. We have to go through the training. It will take a week time to train those new loss runs. So that is a process which we will continue to do. So Jason, I think your thoughts.
Yeah, I guess honestly, one of the biggest challenges I think has to do with the insurance industry in general and the quality of information provided on loss runs. So, as we all know, there's some carriers who provide fantastic information, which aids in the evaluation process, while others are quite lacking. So, many times it's, to be honest, a competitive disadvantage to provide great loss data in a marketing process, as it helps your competition understand your insured or business better. So I think that's just something that, it's always going to be there. But this helps get to insights quicker and faster. In terms of, opportunities moving forward. Given my background in, the monoline work comp, one thing that I find exciting would be, the CogniSure platform has the potential, in my opinion, to create a meaningful relationship between the standardized loss information already being processed and how that relates to an experience mod factor. So the association could provide information in terms of how a particular location, mechanism of injury, or singular loss is currently impacting your experience mod factor and ultimately your premium.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Seth.
Yeah, to me, one of the challenges, and this will sound a little bit funny, is the fact that once you get a taste of the ability to get data easily, you start thinking very quickly about all the other use cases that exist with that same set of data. And Travis and Jason have hit on a few already. Loss forecasting, trending and developed losses is certainly high on that list. Exposure data and increasing in including exposure data, and we have tested that in a couple of circumstances, so we can start looking at losses relative to particular exposures and look at that year over year. As exposures change for a given customer, certainly that changes what that loss forecast looks like. Thirdly, as Jason mentioned, the experience mod component. Once we have the exposure information and the formulas available by state, that becomes something that's simple. And as others had mentioned earlier as well, those one-off carriers, particularly the areas around specialty lines, umbrella areas where we don't have frequency of losses, but yet the ability to bring those losses into the same picture for a particular customer is something that's valuable, and we know will come. There's a roadmap, of course, and you've shared a little bit of that with us and given us a peek in the box there, but the more we can continue to build upon what's started gives us the opportunity to move forward.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. And I just want to quickly go back and show you, I think our this one has completed that bundling of that one I was showing, which is, if you see here, like we said, we just want to bundle these files, and now you can also see an aggregated view of that particular loss run from 3 different large carrier loss runs. You can see everything, and you can slice and dice the data in the dashboard. This all happens in minutes. That's the power of it. And as I also mentioned, from a broker standpoint, all these reports that they want to share with their clients can also be downloaded very quickly and very easily. So with that, I think, and we also want to mention about the human in the loop exception processing. Like sometimes when you get a scanned loss run, or when you get a, not trained, because even though CogniSure platform has 250 carrier loss runs, but there are probably another 1,000 that we did not see or we did not train. So when such exceptions happen, we just, there is a human in the loop to take care of that particular piece, which is, I would say, from loss runs, it's like probably 10 to 20% of the cases go through that exception processing. So I think we had the good discussion. So now the second poll question to all of you. So Swapnil, you can shoot the poll question. So it's again interesting. It's fully automated. We are seriously looking for options, not a priority item, maybe in future. So any surprises, Seth or Jason, Travis there, or it's pretty much what we expect?
Yep, I would say that's pretty consistent.
Okay, good. Okay, so that's good to know. And then let's move to the next topic. How do we get to a future of digital submissions? I think, the industry is processing the submissions as most of the commercial submissions come in emails. There is an insured sending a lot of data in an unstructured, and the broker spending a lot of time, and the same thing. This is there forever. In future, there is a lot of API data-driven exchange between brokers and carriers, data standardization, and there's a lot of AI, ML, this chat GPT, everything is transforming. So we would like to understand, your perspectives on, how do we get there? How do we get there, and any thoughts on the technology revolution and how is it going to help?
Well, I think the hardest part is the box that you had on that slide that was first, which is the insured to broker piece, simply because the number of insureds that are managing their data and their information in a whole host of different ways makes that almost overwhelming. There are some technologies out there that are trying to help manage that process a little bit better, again, but lots more to do there. So that challenge is almost separate from the challenge of how to data move between the insured, between the agent and the broker. And the challenge there, I think Jason talked earlier about the fact that there's all kinds of information that every carrier needs a little bit different, but there are some basics and there's some standards that live there. So I think if we are able to focus on those standards and those pieces, we can at least start nibbling away. But it's hard. And if it was easy, the industry would have done it a long time ago. We have thousands of agencies and brokers in the world, and we probably have thousands of insurance companies between MGAs and the like as well. So the number of interactions and the number of APIs that would have to work successfully for it to really be smooth is really overwhelming, which is likely why it hasn't happened yet and may not happen anytime in the near future.
Sure. So Jason and Travis, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess in my opinion, I think the future of digital submissions lies in the ability to create some type of intermediate step or go-between from agencies to carriers and then also back to insureds. But ultimately you have every carrier, every agency on a different system or some version of a system, and we're never going to get everybody on the same platform. So how do we, take information, standardize, aggregate it, and then send it off to somebody else in the format that they need to do what they need to do? So to me, it's finding that intermediary to work with everyone's unique system.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely, that's the, getting everybody onto a common platform is a big challenge. And at least, standardizing and normalizing the data should be the first step to get there. Travis, your thoughts on that?
So there are a few platforms, I believe, out there that are trying this right now. I think it's more effective on small accounts. On the larger accounts, there's still the underwriting element that needs to happen. There's more questions that are going to be asked. Plus, I'm a firm believer in people like working with people. And so agents want to work with their underwriter and they want to hear what the underwriter has to say. They don't want to take that human element out of it. But there are platforms out there that are being tested, and I believe there is success coming from some of them.
Yeah. There is again, we see from our standpoint, we see a significant uptick in, digitization of the commercial underwriting process, especially the middle market and large, where everything is an email with accords, schedules, SOVs, loss runs. How do you aggregate this? And, the industry is also building a lot of underwriting workbenches. So how do you aggregate the data from these documents and also the third-party sources plus the carrier own data into a single pane of glass? So I think there is we see a lot of traction in that place. There's a lot of companies that are also trying to solve this problem of, a unified underwriting workbench. And how do you extend this to brokers? How do you extend this to carriers, to the end customers? I think, hopefully the sooner than later, I think, the industry will see success, and, companies like us should not exist, because taking the documents to data, which originally is the structured data. So I think hopefully the APIs and the integrations will get streamlined. So with that, I just want to quickly do another a survey poll question. Okay. So it's very interesting. So there's a lot of people that think not going to happen in my lifetime, and are very optimistic, and it will happen, but it will take longer. So Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's good. It's any surprises there? Or,
Well, I think one of the interesting things, and you were talking about the fact that there is a lot of work going on in this area right now. If you're an agency or a carrier and you're not spending time thinking about the digitization of the process right now, you will fall behind. Now, whether or not we get to a future pure end state in the next 3 to 5 years or 5 to 10 years, I have no idea when that happens or if that happens, but will we make significant progress in the next 3 to 10 years? Absolutely. And again, if you're not thinking about what role you're playing and how you're going to transform your internal business, you may end up finding yourself left behind.
Sure. So I think Seth, on that note, I think I know from your prior experience, you did drive a very large underwriting transformation for very large companies. So any thoughts that you want to share about that journey, and what were the challenges, or anything that you want to share in the underwriting workbench and underwriting transformation for a big carrier?
I think that the two things that the technology components end up being the easiest. And we're sitting here talking about a technology solution, and with adopters of that technology solution, what I think we learned most significantly, or certainly I learned most significantly, is the technology is much, much easier than the process piece and the change management piece. So we do run a risk of the technology getting ahead of our ability to manage process changes and think about process changes and think about change management. So we certainly learned that 5 or 10 years ago. It's not new, but that will continue to exist, and the process and the change management components for the people that are engaged are going to be just as important, and probably driving the ability to change quicker than the technology. The technology is moving faster.
Sure. Thanks a lot. I think with that, I think we can open up for some good questions. I do see some of the questions coming up. So this is very exciting. How do we ensure the information extracted from the documents is 100% correct? Do we have data validation layer available? Great question. It's about the accuracy of the data. How do we trust the data? So as I can say, as an underwriter or a broker, if the data is not accurate, we don't exist. It doesn't make any sense to have a tool which cannot give accurate data. So when we extract the data, we normalize into a common structure. On the common structure, we run hundreds and hundreds of rules, like whether the summary that is given in the loss run matches with the individual claims aggregated. So we do run a lot of validation algorithms. And if any of those things fail, the system flags saying that, look, there is some issue with that. And then some human in the loop has to review it. So yeah, extra accuracy is very important. So our platform, I can very clearly say, if it is a native PDF or a good Excel, no scanned elements, we can guarantee 95% and above accuracy, and which is dependable. I hope you guys agree with me on the accuracy based on what you have seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, the frustration part is when it errors out. It errors out almost always because we're not 100%, or you're not 100% sure that the system read it automatically correctly the first time, which does, you mentioned earlier, include that human intervention. But that doesn't happen often, but it certainly does happen. And I think that's confirmation that QA/QC is happening.
Sure. Thank you. So the next question is, how does the data output and integrate with the rating and policy system? So I think some of the companies, as we have seen, they only analyze, as Travis was mentioning, they don't enter the detail, but they will analyze. But maybe Jason, they are entering the summary level. I have seen different companies do this differently. Some of them enter every single claim into their rating system. So we have built an integration accelerators to Guidewire, Duck Creek, where you can put this data through API into any of your systems, whether it is a underwriting workbench or a rating system that can be done. So how does your loss control department utilize this? I think that's the question. Jason or Travis, you can answer that.
Sure. No, I'll take that one. We utilize it on the front end. So before we go out and we meet with a potential insured, we already know that they have, historical losses relating to manual material handling, repetitive motion, ergonomic, so we can have a better, more frank conversation with the decision makers to say, historically, this is where your losses are coming from. Have you done anything since then to mitigate or eliminate them moving forward? Or are you open to investigating, alternative options to try to prevent those claims from happening moving forward? And ultimately, that goes back to the partnership, but it also goes back to the underwriter's ability to get comfortable pricing an account based on, we know what happened in the past, but what's going to happen in the future.
Thank you. And the next question is, do you have direct connections with any carriers to pull in the loss runs, or do you upload them each time? So maybe Seth, you can answer that, because you are getting, Jason and Travis, you are getting the loss runs in emails that we are pulling directly from the emails for you. But Seth, in your case, how are you getting the loss runs, or from carriers?
In current state, we are still uploading them individually. We are going to the carrier website, like most everybody probably is, and grabbing them and uploading them the way you just showed in the demo. There are a handful of carriers that do download data directly into our agency management system, and for those, we are able to take one extract and load those all at the same time. The idea of having connections to those carriers directly is, I would hope would be on the future map, because it seems possible, at least for the larger carriers. So maybe, Sai, you could probably comment on the future strategy map on the ability to do that.
Yeah, definitely. We are working with many large insurance companies trying to digitize this process. And one of the things is, can the carriers share their loss data to CogniSure directly? So, it takes time, but it is definitely. Some of the big insurance companies said, look, if a broker wants their loss data, and if we have a relationship with CogniSure and they have a relationship with CogniSure, why not? So it's a possibility, so that you don't need to go to the carrier websites and download the loss runs. But right now, carriers protect the loss runs very seriously, so they're not going to easily make it accessible, but it is definitely a future potential. So the next question is, for model training, Travis said that it takes few samples to train the model. Is that model training to each carrier customer? Another carrier has already trained their model. Would other carriers be able to ingest that submission data faster by not needing to train that model? The answer is yes. So what we are training on models is, let's say, ACORD forms, property SOVs, loss runs from different carriers. So if your submission comes, let's say ACORD 125, or let's say Traveler's loss run, the model has already seen those loss run templates or loss run formats or ACORD 125. So you don't need to, we don't train for every carrier. We train the industry document so everybody can use that. So it's like, it's a community effect is in place. Now we have 250 carrier loss runs trained, and we will hopefully by end of this year, we will have 500 carriers, which is probably 90% of the market anyway. Okay, can you speak to how the system handles combining related claims to a single occurrence that has multiple claimants and multiple coverages? Is the output granular enough to see liability versus comp collision for the same occurrence? Maybe Jason or Travis, can you take a shot at that question?
Was the question, how do you analyze a claim that had multiple, or a loss that had multiple claims from it?
Yeah, I think it's Anthony Diaz, that question. I think are you able to see the Q&A in the Q&A section? Yeah. For an example, an auto claim that has multiple claimants and multiple coverages, right? Is the output granular enough to see liability? Where my answer is yes, you can see the granular level, but I just want to hear your explanation.
Yeah, the system will break it down by claimant, so you can see dollars paid for each claimant that was involved in the loss. If there was also multiple lines of business, it'll break it down by work comp in auto too. If it was an auto claim that injured employee also got hurt in, you can break it down that way.
Sure. Thank you. And the other question is, does your platform handle only loss runs or other submission documents like a card, property SOVs and others? I already answered saying that, look, yes, we do handle the entire submission piece, just not loss runs. How long does it take to go live and implement of your platform? So we can go live tomorrow if you want, because it's already, as I said, 250 carrier loss runs are already there. You can just drag and drop all your accounts loss runs into our platform and you can start seeing those results. So it's pretty extremely quick. Even in a few weeks, you can go live with loss runs. Do you have API capabilities and how strong are you API data access policies? So the couple of things, we are completely API driven. You can actually call our API with a PDF loss run and we can give you a structured JSON back to you. And we are a cloud hosted. There's a lot of security things are there. Yeah, it's pretty strong. You can get instant results, accurate results very quickly. How do you map various quotes across various carriers to a common set of quote descriptions to consolidate, for example, cause, nature, body part? So we have done a normalization process of trying to take different carriers structures into a common structure so that when you are seeing it, okay, even though each carriers have a different versions, we normalized it. But I would, Jason, maybe if you want to take a shot at that, right, that will be helpful. It's a workers' comp claims. How do you see the normalization in our platform?
Yeah, and it that's a great question, Nancy. And it like Sai mentioned, the system's looking for keywords. So if we're dealing with manual material handling, some carriers might put manual material handling. They might put MMH. There might be a description of injury that says strain from lifting, and taking some of those keywords and aggregating them into one bucket is what the platform does.
Thank you. For bundling, what different LOBs are supported? I think, see, we have almost all the lines of business. There is no specific, whatever is there in the loss runs, right? It will show you as that LOB. So there is no limitations. We have, pretty much a lot of, maybe not on the specialty lines, but most of the general lines, property, auto, workers' comp, GL, umbrella. So all that is already there in the platform. Yeah, so somebody is asking, what are the possibilities to build a loss run engine that can extract any loss run carrier data regardless of the variation and structure? I say, okay, this is a great question, right? Can machine learning, okay, we have 250 carrier loss runs trained in the platform. The new 251 carrier comes to our platform. How much can it do? I can tell you, with 25 years experience in the industry, I cannot tell sometimes what are the elements are there. For example, Traveler says claim type as CM. What is CM means? So there is no algorithm that knows, right? So there is only so much you can extract, but at the level which your underwriters and brokers want to consume, the missions alone will not be able to aggregate. There is a lot of things you have to do to be able to reach the position where we reached. So we spent 3 years on this one. So it's not just throwing some tech at a loss run is not going to solve that problem. That much I can tell. What percentage of loss runs do you run in CogniSure? All are just from some brokers and carriers. So we are making, Neil, we're making very good progress. We are working with a lot of large brokers and carriers. So eventually, our goal is in the next 2 to 3 years, we will have the largest repository of loss runs in our platform, and that's the goal. We are not there yet, but we will get there.
Yes, Sai, I think the opposite end of that, we are agnostic to the carrier that the loss runs come from. Our view on how we're using the system is really client-based or submission-based. So if the client or prospect has enough loss data where there will be a value in evaluating the losses in this way, we will use that. Now, is that 10% of our business or 50% of the business? It's actually a question that we don't think about it in terms of a percent of our business. We think about it in terms of where there's going to be value for a particular customer, a particular submission. And it is completely agnostic to where the loss data is coming from, because if the loss run happens to be from a carrier that's not trained, CogniSure is usually able to get that trained, within a week or two. So it's not instantaneous, but it's fairly quick. And again, as Syed mentioned, most of the major standard carriers are already trained.
Thank you. So speaking to the losses and your insights of data aggregation, analysis, intelligence, what are the limitations on intelligence? Are you using a learning algorithm or just a human risk analysis on a particular data set? A great question right now. I think that's what right now we are focused on, taking the feedback from underwriting and do the, like, for example, loss pick, or, this is a lot of algorithms, a lot of rule-based analysis we are doing, but we have a plan. We have a goal to really, can we predict losses based on the, the data set, ML-driven modeling. Like, okay, if I see a big 3 different loss runs, right? Can I predict something? So those prediction algorithms are also is part of our roadmap. Documents with a lot of loss runs and policies, how do you provide insights out of it? Simple reporting rather than insight tool. So again, it is an evolving thing. There is a lot of, we focus on what the underwriter wants as an insight. So what the brokers want as an insight, and then try to provide them what they are looking for right now. But there are so many opportunities and possibilities that we are going to explore.
I'll jump in there too, Sai.
Yeah.
So, one of the documents that was presented was the kind of the 1-page output. And that is static data. But when you go into the click insights, that's where you can really get granular and drive down, information based on insights that, you digest on a particular insured. So if, for example, we've got a manufacturing account that has, slip, trip, fall issues, you can actually click and, isolate information related to that particular mechanism of injury. It'll change all the tiles in the data so you can understand, well, is that inside the facility? Is that outside the facility? Is that happening, so there's all ways to utilize that data. There is a portion that is a static report, but then there's also the ability to drill down and get your hands dirty in the information.
Thank you. So the other question is, how are you different from our competitors, right? See, I will only ask one thing. If anybody can take 10 loss runs from the top 10 carriers, run right in front of you in a platform and show the outputs within minutes, which that a broker or an underwriter can consume, then probably I will talk about an competition. I don't think there is anybody in the market today that can run live in front of you a 100-page loss run, show the output that can be consumed by an underwriter. So that's the difference. The difference is how it's not an extraction engine. There are so much tech today in the market that say, I can extract the data, but the whole concept of end-to-end, right? How do you consume the data? How do you make decisions of the data? Without doing a lot of, tech work. So that's the difference of, CogniSure is it's an end-to-end platform to consume the data and insights. I think we are almost done. Thank you again, everyone. And, there is a very quickly, Seth, Travis, Jason, this is great. I really appreciate you joining, demo and share your insights. We do really appreciate. And West Bend also, West Bend Mutual has been a great client of our from beginning of our journey. We learned a lot from all of you. So thank you. Thanks a lot. And with that, Swapnil will send out a feedback form. Please provide any feedback, anything. You can be as open as possible. And also, if you are interested to do a more detailed demo, please do let us know, and then we will reach out to you. So thank you and have a great day. Thank you.